They told me that winning the global scholarship to the Haneul Academy would change my life. They said it was a golden ticket out of poverty. They were right. It did change my life. But nobody warned me that I was walking straight into a shark tank. And I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't just break the rules. I insulted him. Park Ji-Hoon, the heir to the legacy, the boy who owns this city. It started 10 minutes ago. My name is Nia. And looking at me, you can tell I don't belong here. My uniform is secondhand, bought from a charity shop back home. My hair isn't straightened like the other girls. It is in braids that my mother spent hours doing the night before my flight. I was just trying to find the library, lost in this massive labyrinth of marble and glass. I was clutching my notebook so hard my knuckles were turning white, terrified of being late on my very first day. I wasn't looking where I was going. I was too busy staring at the chandelier on the ceiling. I turned the corner and bam! I slammed right into a wall. But it wasn't a wall. It was a chest. Hard as stone. I dropped everything. My cheap notebook scattered across the polished marble floor. My pen rolled away under a bench. I scrambled to pick them up, my heart hammering in my throat, mumbling, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. That's when the hallway went silent. Dead silent. The kind of silence that happens before a storm. I looked up. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He was looking at me like I was a bug he wanted to crush. He wasn't wearing the school uniform properly. He was in a suit that probably cost more than my mother's entire house. He was standing in the middle of the hallway like a king. He kicked my notebook away with his polished shoe. It slid across the floor and hit the wall. You're in my way, he said. His voice was deep, cold, and terrifying. My mother raised me to be polite. She raised me to be humble. But she didn't raise me to be a doormat. Maybe it was the jet lag. Maybe it was the fear. But something inside me snapped. I stood up, clutching my remaining books against my chest. I apologized, I said. My voice shook, but I held my ground. You don't have to be rude. The entire hallway gasped. A girl nearby whispered, Is she crazy? Does she know who that is? Ji-Hoon tilted his head. A small, cruel smirk played on his lips. He took a step closer to me. He towered over me, blocking out the light. He smelled like expensive cologne and danger. Rude, he whispered, leaning down so only I could hear. New girl. I can buy your entire family's existence with the watch on my wrist. Do not speak to me. He brushed past me, his shoulder hitting mine hard enough to make me stumble back. I thought that was the end of it. I thought he was just a rich jerk with a bad attitude. But later that day, when I was called into the headmaster's office and warned never to upset the Park family, I realized the truth. Park Ji-Hoon isn't just a student. And his family doesn't just run businesses. They run the underworld. And I had just declared war on the Mafia Prince. Before I tell you what he did to me next, I need to know. Have you ever stood up to a bully only to realize the bully was actually a monster? If you want to see how I survived this nightmare, and if I actually fall in love with the monster, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that like button right now. I'm uploading new chapters of my survival story every week. Are you ready? Good. Let's go back to the hallway. Word travels fast at Haneul Academy. By lunch I was a ghost. Nobody would look at me. When I sat down at a table, everyone else stood up and left, taking their trays with them. It was psychological warfare. They didn't need to hit me to hurt me. Silence hurts more than a punch sometimes. I found a note in my locker later that afternoon. It didn't say go home. It said, know your place, foreigner. I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. I tried to ignore it. I focused on my studies. I was here to learn, not to make friends with spoiled rich kids who had never worked a day in their lives. I thought about my mother back home working 2 jobs to send me money for food. I couldn't let her down. But Park Ji-Hoon wasn't done with me. Third period was history class. I walked in clutching my bag and scanned the room. The only empty seat was next to him. Of course it was. He didn't look at me. He was texting on a phone that looked like it was made of gold. I sat down slowly, trying to be invisible. I tried to make myself small. I tried to slow my breathing so he wouldn't notice me. You're breathing too loud, he said without looking up from his screen. I gritted my teeth, gripping my pen. I can stop breathing if you prefer, but that might be illegal. He finally looked at me. There was that smirk again. That cruel, beautiful smirk that made my stomach turn. Legality is a concept for poor people, Nia. He knew my name. That scared me more than anything. He had looked me up. He knew who I was. Did he know where I lived? Did he know about my mother? After class he cornered me. Not physically but socially. He snapped his fingers and 3 other boys, his lieutenants, surrounded my desk before I could pack up. They didn't touch me. They just stared, crossing their arms. Ji-Hoon leaned down, his face inches from my ear. I could feel the heat radiating off him. Drop out, he whispered. Go back to where you came from. This world will chew you up and spit you out. Why do you care? I asked, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to sound brave. Why does my presence bother you so much? Because, he said, his eyes going dark, losing all light. I don't like things that don't belong. And you really don't belong. 2 weeks passed. The bullying got subtle. My homework would go missing right before class. Someone tripped me in the cafeteria, sending my spicy soup all over my uniform while the whole room laughed. But I stayed. I refused to let him win. I washed my uniform in the dorm sink every night and showed up the next morning with my head held high. Then came the storm. It was a Tuesday night. I was in the library late, finishing an essay on Korean history. The storm outside was raging, rain lashing against the massive glass windows. Suddenly the power went out. The entire east wing of the school plunged into pitch blackness. I froze. I waited for the emergency lights, but nothing happened. I pulled out my phone to use the flashlight, my hands shaking. The shadows in the library seemed to stretch and move. Then I heard it. A door slamming open somewhere near the entrance. Heavy, ragged breathing echoing in the silence. Hello. I called out, my voice small in the darkness. I heard footsteps running towards me. Fast. Heavy. A hand shot out from the darkness and grabbed my wrist. I screamed, but a large palm clamped over my mouth instantly. Quiet. A voice hissed in my ear. It was him. Ji-Hoon. But he wasn't the confident Mafia Prince I knew. Even in the dim light of my phone, I could see he was a mess. He was soaking wet from the rain. His shirt was torn at the shoulder. And there was blood. So much blood. Soaking through his white sleeve and dripping onto the floor. He dragged me behind a row of tall bookshelves, pressing me against the wood. His body was trembling against mine. Ji-Hoon. I mumbled against his hand. He removed his hand but kept me pinned there, his eyes scanning the darkness behind us. You need to hide, he commanded. Right now. What happened to you? I whispered, staring at the gash on his arm. It looked deep. You need a doctor. Don't ask questions, he snapped, his eyes wild with adrenaline. There are men in the building. If they see you, they won't hesitate to hurt you just to get to me. Before I could process this, heavy footsteps echoed at the library entrance. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, sweeping over the tables and chairs. Come out, little prince, a rough voice shouted. Daddy isn't here to protect you tonight. I froze. My blood ran cold. This wasn't school bullying. This wasn't a prank. This was real danger. Life or death. Ji-Hoon looked at me. The arrogance was gone. The cruelty was gone. In his eyes I saw pure fear, not for himself but for me. Stay here, he whispered, his voice cracking. Don't make a sound. No matter what you hear, do not come out. He walked out from behind the shelf, hands raised in surrender. I watched through a gap in the books, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought they would hear it. 3 men in dark suits surrounded him. They didn't look like security guards. They looked like thugs. Leave the school out of this, Ji-Hoon said calmly, standing tall despite his injury. This is between your boss and my family. We just want to send a message. One of the men laughed. He was holding a metal baton. He swung it. Hard. He punched Ji-Hoon right in the stomach. Ji-Hoon doubled over, coughing violently. But he didn't fight back. He took the hit. He was standing in a specific spot, blocking their view of the bookshelf where I was hiding. He was using his body as a shield for me. Is that all you've got? Ji-Hoon spat blood on the floor, looking up at them with a defiant grin. The man raised the baton to hit him again. This time he aimed for his head. I couldn't watch. I couldn't just stand there and let him die. I grabbed a heavy hardcover book from the shelf. It was an encyclopedia. "Hey!" I screamed. I threw the book with all my strength. It sailed through the air and hit the main guy right in the back of the head. The men turned shocked. Ji-Hoon looked at me with horror. "Nia, run!" But the distraction was enough. Ji-Hoon lunged. He was fast, terrifyingly fast. He swept the first guy's legs out from under him, grabbed the baton as it fell, and cracked the second guy's wrist. "Go!" Ji-Hoon roared at the men, his voice echoing like a demon. "Before I call the enforcers. You have 30 seconds. The men scrambled. They knew who Ji-Hoon was. They knew that if his family's soldiers arrived, they would never leave this building alive. They ran out the door, disappearing into the storm. The silence after they left was heavier than the fighting. The only sound was the rain pounding on the roof and Ji-Hoon's heavy breathing. He slid down against the desk, clutching his bleeding arm. His face was pale. I rushed over to him, ripping a piece of fabric from the scarf I was wearing. "Let me see it," I said, kneeling beside him. "Go away, Nia," he grunted, closing his eyes. "I told you. Being near me is a death sentence. You should have run." "You took that punch for me," I whispered, my hands shaking as I pressed the cloth against his wound. "You told me to drop out because you were trying to protect me. You weren't bullying me because you hated me. You were bullying me to scare me away from you." He opened his eyes. Those dark, cold eyes were suddenly tired. And soft? For the first time the mask had slipped. "You're stubborn," he said, a faint smile touching his bloody lips. "I'm a survivor," I replied. "I finished tying the bandage tight. Just like you." He looked at the bandage. Then he looked at me. For the first time there was no sneer. No judgment. He reached out with his good hand and touched a braid of my hair. His fingers were gentle, almost reverent. "You're not a survivor, Nia," he murmured. "You're a target. And now that they've seen your face, I can't let you go." I didn't understand what he meant until the next morning. I walked through the school gates, expecting the usual insults. I expected the fear to return. But this time Park Ji-Hoon was waiting for me. He wasn't hiding in the shadows. He was standing right in the center of the courtyard, wearing a fresh suit, though his arm was in a sling. When he saw me, he walked straight to me. The chatter in the courtyard stopped. The entire school watched. He took off his blazer, the one with the family crest embroidered in gold, and draped it over my shoulders. It was heavy and smelled like him. "What are you doing?" I hissed, feeling the eyes of every student on me. "Marking my territory," he whispered. He turned to the crowd, to the bullies who had tormented me for weeks, to the teachers who had looked the other way. "Listen up," he shouted. His voice was like thunder. "From this moment on, if anyone touches her, if anyone even looks at her wrong, you answer to me." He grabbed my hand, interlacing his fingers with mine. His grip was firm, possessive. "Come on," he said. "We have class." I followed him, stunned. I was safe from the school. The king had chosen his queen. But as I walked beside him, I realized I wasn't safe from the world outside. The men from the library were still out there. That night, as I sat in my room wearing his blazer, still smelling his cologne on the collar, my phone buzzed on my desk. It was an unknown number. I picked it up, my hands trembling. I opened the message. My blood turned to ice. It was a photo of my mother back in my home country walking to the market. She looked happy, unaware that someone was watching her through a camera lens. And the text below it read, "The prince has a weakness now. Bring him to us or say goodbye to mommy." I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor. I was trapped. If I stayed with Ji-Hoon, the mafia would kill my mother. If I betrayed Ji-Hoon, his family would kill me. I looked at the door. I had to make a choice. A choice between the boy I was falling for and the woman who gave me life. What do I do? Do I tell the Mafia Prince the truth and risk a war? Or do I sacrifice him to save my mother? Let me know in the comments what you would do if you were in my shoes. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel right now. I'll see you in the next chapter. If I survive.